Let's kick off today's edition of Advisor Video Academy. Thank you so much for showing up, or thank you for watching this if you're watching the replay. I am Laura Garfield, co-founder of Idea Decanter. I am in Seattle, and I'm going to kick it over to Sharon for an introduction.
You all know me. I'm always in the Idea Kit box with you, and I'm also in Seattle and making sure that all your videos look lovely on the way out the door. And of course, we're joined today from the East Coast.
Holding it down in the Southeast. I'm Tracy Shaw, executive producer and project manager here at Idea Decanter. And I want to introduce our special guest today, Jonny Swift, Vice President and Director of Social and Digital Strategy with Impact Communications. Thanks for being here, Jonny.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I've got the Midwest covered. I'm located in Kansas City. So yeah, good old Kansas City, right in the middle of the country. We got the NFL draft coming in a few days, so it's very exciting.
Well, to give you all a snapshot of why Jonny is here with this information, word on the street is that there was an amazing presentation on SEO that Jonny delivered in Austin to the Dimensional Funds folks. And when I heard about it, my ears perked up because for me, SEO is still a little bit of a mystery. And with such rave reviews, I thought I can't be the only person who would really like to get in on what Jonny is talking about. So Jonny has a lot of information. In fact, he has far more than 30 minutes to pack in. So he is going to haul through it. I would encourage you to drop questions in the chat. We will pop them in for Jonny as he goes along. We may go past the 30-minute mark if you can't stick around for it. We do send out the replay so you can catch the end later. So we're so glad to see you. And Jonny, I will let you take this away.
Thank you so much for those nice comments. That was at the AICPA PFP Summit in Austin. Really great event on the Dimensional campus. And, you know, this topic, let me pull my slides up here, but this topic on SEO is always changing. It's a, you know, evergreen and ever moving, you know, as, let me get this pulled up. Because, you know, the SEO targets are always moving. So there's always improvements you can make. It's a, you know, important topic. It seems like a daunting topic as well, but just remember that you don't have to take care of this all at once. SEO and building out your online presence is a constant build. And so, you know, just keep that in mind because a lot of this might seem a little overwhelming at first, but a lot of it's doable on your own or with the help of a trusted professional. But it's a constant build that you want to be taking care of and thinking about over time as you optimize your website and create content. So with that, let's jump in. Let me change something really quick. All right. So first off, I want to talk about online presence and where advisors should be visible online. So first of all, you need a modern, fresh website that's fast and easy to use and navigate, that's also optimized for SEO and is also mobile friendly. That's the hub of your entire online presence and where you're ultimately trying to drive web traffic back to with your other online assets. Next is social media. At the very least, I recommend advisors be set up on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Also, make sure you have your Google business profile set up and you know, filled out properly. That's a really big component of SEO that shows up in that top right corner of search results. Whenever anybody's looking for your business, it has your map listing, photos, website, contact information, all that good stuff. So make sure that's set up properly. Also, for a lot of you, maybe you have an Instagram page if you have a lot of photo content or you're trying to reach a younger audience. And maybe for a lot of you, I mean, since if you're working with Idea Decanter, a lot of you most likely have a strong video presence. So having a YouTube and or Vimeo channel set up is really important. I'll have a slide later that's going to dig into more video content and why it's so important. But I just want to add really quick that YouTube is especially important because a lot of people don't know this, but it's actually the second most used search engine on the web. Obviously, it's not truly a search engine, it's a video platform, but it gets the second most searches of any website out there behind Google, of course, and YouTube is also owned by Google. So really important to have a YouTube channel, especially if you're producing lots of good video content. And then also if you have a podcast or you produce a lot of audio content, having a channel on Libsyn or SoundCloud or some other audio hosting platform. And then, you know, having your member profiles, directory listings set up, depending on which membership groups you belong to. And finally, try to be featured in the media and get some PR activity, you know, including media mentions, profiles, news releases, bylined articles, And that could be in industry publications, national publications, even local publications. That's really important for building out your online presence. But being visible in all these places not only helps with SEO because these online assets show up high in search results themselves, but also because of the value of backlinking, which we're going to talk more about in a minute. But I want to look at this in a slightly different way in terms of your inbound marketing funnel. And at the top of that funnel is simply being found. And SEO and having a strong online presence is obviously going to be help you found more often online. So again, your website, ideally have a lead magnet on your website. So when people find you online, when they get back to your website, you have some kind of educational resource or valuable piece of content there that people want to give up their name and email address in order to download or access that. So it's a great way to capture information when they do visit your website and feed them into your email list, drip market to them over time. But those social media profiles, Google business page, the directory listings and advisor profiles, maybe you do some guest blogging on a platform like Medium, or pitch your blog post to other popular blogging websites. That's a great way to be found online. That PR activity that I discussed could be digital or print in a local publication. Also, doing interviews, video interviews, podcasts, things like that. That all ties into PR and your online presence. That strong video presence, obviously really important to be visible on YouTube, especially if you have a lot of good video content. Maybe you have a good book and you have a publication page on Amazon or Goodreads or somewhere like that. And then review sites like Expertise and Yelp. With the new SEC marketing rule, if you're nationally registered, you now have the ability to start collecting and displaying testimonials in your marketing materials and accepting reviews on review sites. So, if you have a strong presence on Yelp with a high rating, people are now looking there to find top financial advisors in their area and things like that. For some advisors, maybe mixing in some paid digital advertisements through Outbrain or Google Ads, or doing some social media advertising can help boost your message to a larger targeted audience. Doing some email marketing and drip campaigns through services such as MailChimp or SnappyCracken, that also provides a lot of value for nurturing your prospects through your marketing funnel, keeping in touch with them over time. But, all these strategies help you be found online, and then you want to work those prospects down through your marketing funnel. So pass that initial test of trust and credibility, provide value with the content you create, stand out as the better choice amongst your competitors, keep in touch to reinforce your value, drip market to them over time, provide educational content, build trust and credibility, and then ultimately convert those prospects into clients. And then the base of your marketing funnel should be providing a great client experience. And that's going to, help with client retention, but also help with referrals, and in turn, feed up new prospects into the top of your funnel. And having a strong online presence and strong online assets like these really, make you look larger than life, make you, position you as a credible expert, so that when people find you in any of these places, they feel like you know what you're talking about. So one other way to look at this is like spiderweb marketing. So at Impact, we like to think of online presence like a digital spiderweb or a net in the cloud, with your website as the center of your hub and all of those other online assets functioning as connected strings in a larger interconnected web that makes up your online presence. So linking to each other, driving web traffic back and forth from one to another, that helps your SEO with backlinking. And if you cast a broad net like this online and continue to add strong elements to your digital spiderweb, it not only boosts up all of these individual online assets in search, but it kind of lifts up your whole web and lifts your whole presence higher in SEO and search results. And another nice analogy that's similar to this is the hub and spoke method. So your website is your hub of your wheel, and all of your online assets are spokes that go out. And when everything's functioning well, you have a nicely rotating wheel. So again, this all helps with backlinking. I mentioned that a few times, so really want to dig into exactly what that is. So cross-linking and backlinking is when you link back to your website from credible and authoritative websites, which provides great SEO value, because if Google sees that highly relevant websites are linking back to your website, it also tells them that your website is relevant and popular and credible and authoritative. So, the more popular the website, the more relevant the website, the more website traffic it gets, the higher the domain authority, the more value it's going to be if you can get a backlink from that website to your website. So, a lot of those same things we were just talking about, the social media profiles, advisor profiles, and directory listings, the PR attention, media mentions, articles, and industry, national, and local publications. That one's really important because, those are highly credible, highly popular websites. If you can get quoted in the Wall Street Journal and get a link back to your website, Wall Street Journal has a really high domain authority, gets tons of website traffic every month, every day. So if you can get a backlink from that kind of website, that just tells Google that your website is also highly relevant and credible. Those guest posts and articles for other blog sites, podcast videos and webinars, testimonial and review sites, all of that stuff. If you can cross-link to those profiles, backlink from those other online assets to your website, that is going to just help your SEO efforts and just lift up your website higher in search results. And so then just one other plug for social media when it comes to your SEO. So one of the main reasons you want to be active on social is because it enhances your reach and allows you to connect with more people and prospects by giving those people more places to easily find you online. But it also enhances your SEO because in addition to backlinking, social media profiles show up really high in search results. And it's also, it's always good to have profiles that you can kind of completely control the messaging and the branding of showing up high in search results. So oftentimes if people search for your firm, you might see your LinkedIn profile, your company LinkedIn page showing up higher in search results than sometimes your website or other online assets you might think would show up higher in search results. So in a nutshell, social media profiles show up high in search results, which helps you gain more visibility with more people, and in turn helps grow your followers on social media, which then makes your profile show up even higher in search results, and so on and so forth. It kind of feeds itself. So with that kind of covers the online presence portion of the presentation. And now I'm going to dive into some specific tips for enhancing and optimizing your website, to really help your website show up higher in search results. So I want to pause for a moment, see if there are potentially any questions before I move on to the next section.
I mean, I don't think I could do Bill's comment justice, but he does say, thankfully, all of this is super easy for me to do all by myself.
Yeah, I'm gonna tune out because I got it all. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it doesn't seem daunting at all.
Right. Like I said at the beginning, it's a constant build. The best thing to do is to pick one thing and tackle that. So if you don't really have your social media profiles optimized and enhanced, go focus on that first. Make sure all of your, membership profiles, directory listings, those are set up and filled out properly. Start with those assets that you own and you can control and are easy for you to update and stake out, and then try and move on to some of the more advanced things like gaining some PR activity, doing, a podcast or, guest blogging or things like that. But it's a constant build. And obviously, if you're working with Idea Decanter, you're producing a lot of good content, or there are plenty of other professional firms in the industry that can help you with all these things. Also, another good resource, if you're just looking for help, updating a social media profile or, something like that, kind of a low-hanging fruit, but you don't have time to take care of it yourself, go check out platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, where you can just search for professionals on the cheap and ask them to take care of something for you super quick and easy. So really good resource there to find professionals. You can see ratings and all the different services they offer and everything. So,
and Jonny, I think two things I would underscore with what you just said. One is you all should go and Google yourself in like an incognito window. So your own search history isn't playing into it, because I can't tell you how many times I Google an advisor's name and it's their LinkedIn profile that comes up first. And the other thing to consider is, there are initiatives or pieces of your marketing strategy that you probably question after a while. Like, do I still need to be doing this social media strategy? Is this still making sense for me? And as I listen to Jonny, this is reinforcement that that process really does make sense.
Mm-hmm. Always good to do an audit of yourself and see what you can optimize, see what's showing up, and take it from there. So with that, let's jump into some specific updates you can do on your website. So the first step is to optimize all of your metadata on your website. And metadata is kind of that back office content. It doesn't show on the screen on your website. It's not on-page content, but it's kind of just back office content that you can update within your website platform that tells Google what your site is about and what individual pages are about. So the first thing you need to do is update your site title to make sure to include your company name, your location, and what you do, the main service that you want to be known for. So financial planning, wealth management, whatever it may be. And so the site title shows on the back end of every page title in the search results and the browser bar. Since the site title shows on the back end of every page title, which I'll talk about in a second, including your company name is obviously important, but it's also really important to include your location and what you do if you want to show in search results for wealth management, Seattle, or wherever you're located. Next thing you want to do is update your page titles to be clear and concise. So the page titles also show in search results and in the browser bar and inform Google what the page is about. And those are unique to each and every page. So, all in all, your title would be your page title, and then your site title would be attached to the back end of every page title. So for your services page, your page title might just be services. It might be financial services. So combined with the site title, it would be financial services, company name, wealth management, Seattle, or something like that. The next thing is to fill out and optimize your meta descriptions. And so you'll be able to find these fields in your website platform. And even if you're not going to take care of this yourself, it's good to know about these things so you can instruct the professional that you're going to be working with on what you want done and how you want it done. So the meta descriptions are short yet descriptive paragraphs that include keywords and also a call to action that describe each page. So those also show in search results and inform Google what the page is about. When you Google anything, that title shows up, that's your meta title. And then that short paragraph description shows up underneath, that's your meta description. So sticking with the services page example, you may say something like this for your meta description. Company name based in location provides a variety of financial services, including investment management, financial planning, retirement planning, estate planning, yada, 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 whatever it may be. Contact us today, and with a call to action. So whatever your top services that you provide are, you want to make sure to work those into the meta description, not only because they accurately describe your services, but because they're really good keywords that are going to help your services page show up higher in search results when people are searching for those types of services within your location. And Google also prefers when there's a call to action, especially the word contact. And with these meta descriptions, you don't want to exceed 160 characters, not only because it displays better in search results, but Google can penalize your website if the meta descriptions are just too long. And so then finally, you want to fill out and optimize your keywords field if your website platform still includes that. A lot of website platforms no longer include a keywords field because Google has started to de-emphasize meta keywords, preferring instead that those keywords are worked into the meta titles, meta descriptions, and the on-page content. But if you can still enter in keywords into your website platform, those meta keywords, make sure to include a list of the top keywords for each page that fully describe what the page is about and what you want to be known for and show up in search results for. So here's an example of how one wealth advisory firm's website shows up in search results. That hyperlinked meta title is made up of the page title and the site title. This is just their homepage. So obviously it incorporates their company name, the main service that they want to be known for, what they do, and then their location is San Antonio. That's truncated there, but it's still functional. And then the short description underneath, the meta description, it accurately describes what the site is about. It works in some good keywords in terms of financial strategies, wealth management services, and then it has a call to action at the end, contact us today for an appointment. So with all that being said, Google's algorithm is constantly changing, and there's been a recent trend placing more value on on-page content rather than metadata. So metadata is still important. It's kind of table stakes. You have to have it filled out. It's going to, show in search results whenever anyone Googles you. But Google, they implement algorithm updates once or twice a year, And last year they implemented one that started focusing more on on-page content rather than metadata, because the on-page content describes more accurately what your website visitors are going to see when they visit your website. Obviously, you could put in any information you wanted into the metadata, but that doesn't necessarily mean that kind of content is going to be on the page. But the on-page content does show what they're going to see when they visit your website. So the first thing here is to, that's pretty much what I just said. Sorry for not clicking, but the first thing here is to optimize your H1, H2, H3, etc. header tags. So those are on-page titles describing what the page is about. H1 is the most important. It goes all the way to H6 being the least important. And you only want to have one H1 tag per page, but you can have multiple H2s, H3s, and so on. So sticking with the, your services page example, the H1 would be either services or financial services or something like that. And then if on that page you list out all the different services you offer, those would be H2s. So retirement planning, investment management, so on and so forth. And then maybe if you have some subsections within each of those services that describe your process or something like that, those would be H3s. And so for this page here, this example, they actually have individual pages for each of their services. So you can see this is their financial planning page. That's their H1 tag there. You also want to work all over, the next thing here is you want to work all relevant keywords into the on-page text. So Google values pages that are content rich and text rich and highly descriptive. So rather than just a few sentences on each service, make sure to write a few short paragraphs and fully describe the services and solutions that you offer. You want to work in any and all relevant keywords into your on-page content, into that descriptive text. The more content rich and text rich, the better. You don't want to overdo it, but usually if you can get a page somewhere between 800 to 2,000 words, that's kind of the sweet spot there. Anything less than that might, it won't necessarily penalize you, but if you just have a really short page with a lot of graphics and visuals and not a lot of text, that page might not show up high in search results. So text is always better than images and graphics of text. So if you have, let's say you have a really nice graphic that, describes your process, or it lists out all of your services, and a really nice image, that's great from a user experience standpoint. But if there's words in that graphic, Google can't read those words, right? It's just recognizing that it's an image. So if you are going to include that because it looks nice on page, it's good from a user experience standpoint, make sure to also put those words in that graphic or that image in text on the page. And I need to update this example here because it's not a great example, but it's always best when you can have some kind of element of content rich and text rich like this, but also work in some kind of nice visual content from a user experience standpoint. So, you want there to be just enough content for Google to get a true idea of what the page is actually about, but ultimately, try to cover the topic in a meaningful way without using fluff or repetition too much. So the next kind of ties into one of those last points there, and I want to cover some best practices for website images that can help SEO. The first is to reduce image and file sizes while still ensuring they look good on the page and aren't blurry or pixelated. So high quality images look great, but they can significantly increase the page load time if you have a bunch of large images on a single page. And Google devalues slow websites that have pages that take multiple seconds to load. So reducing the size of images is one of the best ways to, speed up your page load time, which helps with SEO because Google doesn't like pages that are slow to load. So another possible solution for this is to convert your traditional images like JPEGs and PNGs to a WebP format. So WebP is a modern image format that provides superior lossless compression for images on the web. It allows you to create smaller and richer images while, ensuring that they still look good and they can load faster on the page. So freeconvert.com is a really good tool for that. So you can convert lots of different types of files there, including JPEGs or whatever, to WebP format. So check that out if you want to speed up your image load times, your page load time. The next thing is to add alt text to images. So for example, if you're quoted in Forbes, obviously that's awesome. That gives you a lot of credibility, displays you as an expert to your website visitors. But since it's an image, Google can't read the word Forbes. It's just saying that image unless we add an alt tag or alt text to that tab. So by just putting Forbes logo in there, or putting a short description, 1 to 2 words describing what that image is, that's going to allow Google to, to find out what the image is. It's going to be able to crawl and index that. And this is the same way that it gives you credibility, when website visitors see that you were quoted in Forbes, it gives you credibility in Google's sense as well to see you affiliated and associated. And ideally you're cross-linking that logo to the article that you were quoted in. And so that cross-linking value, Google seeing that you were quoted in Forbes and you're linking over there, provides a lot of value from an SEO standpoint. And lastly, make sure to title your image files properly for a lot of those same reasons as the alt text. It just allows Google to, tell what that image is. It allows it to crawl and index that image. And so too often do I see, advisor websites where the images are just, they're named a bunch of random characters or something that doesn't relate, image 1 or whatever, something like that. And so that doesn't have any value from a SEO or a user experience standpoint. And one other thing I wanted to add with alt text is that if the image fails to load, it's going to display that alt text instead. If you have someone who's visually impaired visit your website and they're using screen reader software, and they click on the image, it's going to read the alt text out loud to them. So all in all, it just makes your website more user friendly, which also Google values, and it really helps with SEO. So another big component of SEO for your website is the content being added to your website. So Google rewards content that Google rewards websites that regularly add fresh content to their site. And it shows Google that your website's actively managed, maintained, and updated, and not old or stale or outdated. So make sure to consistently update your website with relevant and educational content, topics, and keywords that you want to show up high in search results for. So a great way to consistently add fresh, relevant content to your website is through blog posts, white papers and special reports, podcast episodes and videos. And with that kind of audio visual content, you always want to put, keyword rich titles and descriptions, maybe a transcript. I'm going to cover that more on the next slide. But and then also update your messaging on a fairly regular basis. That also is a great reason to update your website and just keeps your website fresh, and update your messaging on at least on an annual, if not biannual basis. But here are some good examples of some blog posts. So this first one is 5 good investment opportunities outside of the market. This firm, is known for their alternative investment options. So obviously that is a great article that works in a bunch of good keywords and topics that they want to be known for. This second one is a very different topic, but something else that they also want to be known for, preparing for the non-financial side of retirement. So that's all about, lifestyle planning, retirement planning, things like that. And so 2 very different topics, but both topics that they want to be known for and show up high in search results for. And, also another good idea for blog content is think about what's topical, what's timely, things that people are going to be Googling for, searching for. If you write really good content around that topic, you give yourself a good chance to show up in search results for when people are searching for those types of topics. So I want to dive a little bit more into videos and podcasts. Both are great ways to, great content to keep your website fresh. And Google also rewards pages that have engaging and visually compelling multimedia content. So the only thing is, since they're just AV content and they're not keyword rich text, you want to make sure to include a keyword optimized title and keyword rich summaries and descriptions, and then also possibly include a transcript of the video or podcast episode. By doing that, not only are you including all of that keyword rich text on the page to help with SEO, but you're also giving people a choice in how they'd like to digest your content, since some people would prefer to skim a transcript. So just giving that choice for their user experience is always nice. And here's one example of a client of mine, their podcast episode. So they work in the topic and really good keyword into the title along with the guest. Keyword rich description there, and then at the bottom you can see that you can scroll down to read or download the podcast transcript. We have that whole transcript on the page. lots of good language and lots of good keywords in that transcript, and it makes the page content rich and text rich, which is always great. And by the way, Descript is a great tool for quickly getting a fairly accurate transcript of your audio or video file. I know there are some other good ones out there, but I use Descript and I'm pretty happy with it most of the time.
Yeah, we like Rev too, R-E-V.
Rev, I'll check that one out. So here's another example of how one advisor finds ideas for custom content. So she says instead of doing her annual Thanksgiving newsletter, when someone writes her with a question, she's taking her answer and turning it into a blog entry. That way they're tagged and accessible to find later too. So I've seen a lot of advisors taking client questions, turning them into blog content or videos or vlogs. And this is a fantastic idea because if one client has a question about something, it's likely that multiple of your clients do or other prospects do as well. So doing something like this not only shares that information with that client, answers their question, but it provides you with a very valuable blog content that lots of other people in your audience may find valuable that also might show up high in search results if it's topical and keyword rich. And here's another great example. Let's say that you get asked by a client about a Roth conversion and you decide you want to write a blog post on it. Simply Google Roth conversion and then go down and look at this section called People Also Ask and look at the questions there. So why would someone do a Roth conversion? How do I avoid taxes on it? How much can you convert? At what age does it not make sense? You know, these are questions that are being Googled for and searched for often. These are actually questions that people are looking at. So if you can, actually modify this slightly, or you could even lift these questions and use it as the title of your blog post, you give yourself a good chance to show up in search results when people are Googling these things. And I actually was lucky enough to have a client one time did this strategy. And when you open up this arrow, they were the first result there. And he got a ton of traffic to that blog post on his website because it was a highly searched for topic and question. So that not only is it a great way to come up with a blog post title or an idea for one, but you just give yourself a good chance to show up higher in search results that way. So just to kind of recap all that, the best way is to create custom content. Every time someone asks you a question, every time you see something interesting in an industry publication, every time you see something you disagree with in the news, blog the answer, record the answer in video or podcast form, write a bylined article you can pitch to a third-party publication, turn the topic into a media pitch, write a special report or white paper if you want to do a longer form educational piece, host a webinar around the topic, and as always, push out in social media and email. But ultimately, it's just about keeping your ear to the pavement for hot topics, stay tuned into current events, listen to what people are asking you, think about what you want to be known for and what you want to show up high in search results for and create content around that. And so, just to dig into content a little bit further, the 4 C's of content marketing is something we talk about often. So just to quickly cover these, you'll see these first ones are the easiest to do, going all the way to hard, but they also provide the least value and credibility. So that's canned content, licensed content you pay to use. A lot of other advisors may be using it. Maybe you have the ability to customize it a little bit and get more of a hybrid approach. It's really easy to create because it's, licensed content. It's pre-created for you, but it provides very little value and credibility because it's not your unique perspective or thought leadership. Curated content is a little bit harder to do because you have to go find that content, but it provides a little bit more value and credibility because you're endorsing that content. It resonates with you. You think it'll resonate with your audience. Custom content is where you really start getting a lot of value and credibility from it, but it's a lot harder to create because it's truly unique custom content that you're creating. And celebrity content, also known as credibility content or, PR activity, that's hard to get because you're at the mercy of, third-party publications wanting to publish your expertise, but it provides a ton of value and credibility to be featured as an expert and a thought leader in really relevant and popular third-party publications. So canned and curated content, they do allow you to show your character and values a little bit based on what you choose to use and display. Custom allows you to show your character and values, but also positions you as an expert and authority on a topic. And it also is really good for SEO when it's truly unique custom content, which I'll touch on in a second. And then celebrity gives you everything that custom does, but it also gives you that halo effect and positions you as a thought leader or almost a celebrity in your community or within your industry or, along those lines. So where SEO really comes in here, though, is that canned and curated content can be questionable or even potentially hurt SEO if it's not customized. And that is because Google penalizes and devalues pages that are not truly unique. It penalizes duplicate content. So if you are using a canned piece of content on your blog, and then there are a bunch of other advisory firms out there using that exact same piece of content, and you didn't customize it or change it up in any way, then that could potentially hurt that blog post from showing up in search results because it's not unique content. So digging into that idea a little bit more, landing pages, domains, and duplicate content. I often get asked about external landing pages on platforms like HubSpot or MailChimp, and those can be effective for certain campaigns like a video or webinar series, or maybe a special report or white paper if you have like a download page. But I recommend reducing the amount of external landing pages you have that live outside of your website. So, if it's a webinar or a video series you're promoting, that's really valuable keyword-rich content that you want to live on your website, you want to use to drive traffic to your website, which is the main hub of your online presence. So whenever you can, consolidate all of that valuable content on your main website and the hub of your online presence. So you're not splitting your SEO efforts and you're not competing against yourself in search results with these external landing pages. Next is to avoid duplicate content and web pages. For the same reasons I was just discussing there. And then the last thing is, rather than having multiple domains that direct to the same website content, implement a full site redirect. So I've seen a handful of times in the past firms that have multiple URLs and domains that direct to the same exact website content. So for example, I had one client who changed their firm name, and after the change, they still had their old domain and their old URL directing visitors to their newly branded website, with the new URL also displaying that same content. And so while a lot of people would think of that as it being the same website, if it's two URLs and two different domains, Google actually recognizes that as two separate websites that are duplicates. And so it's going to penalize both websites from showing up higher in search results because it's displaying duplicate content. So rather than having both URLs or both domain names displaying and pointing to the same content, implement a full site redirect. So what that means is when someone enters in the old URL, it's going to redirect them to newurl.com. And it's called full site redirect because that happens on every subpage on the website. So even if, a client has your client portal page bookmarked and they just click on that, rather than taking to oldurl.com/client portal, it's going to redirect them to newurl.com/client portal. So it's going to do a redirect on every subpage across the website. So no matter if they have a page bookmarked, they're clicking on a page from search results, it's always going to take them to the correct page that they're looking for. And since it's a redirect, you're not going to have two separate websites in the eyes of Google. So with that, I just want to cover a few tools that can help you assess and analyze where you're at with your SEO results, get an audit. So the first one here, that's the best tool, I think, for tracking your SEO efforts or see how you're doing, before you start making improvements or after you've made improvements, is Google Search Console. And you can set up Google Search Console the same way that you would with Google Analytics connected to your website. You can use it to track the number of impressions you're getting in search results. So like how often you're showing up in search results, for what, your rankings, so how high you're showing up on the page, for what terms you're showing up for. So when people search for certain terms, where you're showing up in those search results. You can also see the number of clicks you're getting from search results, and see what people are clicking over to your website for, what they searched for that then leads them to click on your website. So this firm here had 10,500 clicks from search results in a month-long period and over 250,000 impressions. So they showed up, in search results that many times. And then we could go look at which keywords and terms and queries they're showing up for. So really valuable there to optimize, those keywords you are showing up in search results for, trying to, improve those further. Or if there are ones that you want to show up for that you're not really, you can try and emphasize more and work those keywords more into your metadata and on-page content. And then Google Analytics is also a great tool for SEO. On the acquisitions page, which is what we're looking at here, you can see where you're getting your website traffic from. So And one of those is organic search results. So this firm had nearly 2/3 of their search results come from, or 2/3 of their website traffic come from search results this month, which is phenomenal. I think even, over a quarter of that chart getting your traffic from search would be really good. So that just tells us they're doing a really good job with their SEO. And then you can kind of track that over time and see if that percentage goes up and you're getting new website visitors from search after you make a bunch of improvements and kind of work this over time. And then also on the pages report in Google Analytics, that you can get a lot of value here as well. You can see which pages are getting the most traffic to your website. And again, kind of another plug for doing that kind of topical, keyword rich blog content. We can see that their 4th through 7th most popular pages were blog posts, and we can see that they're really it tells us what's valuable, what people are clicking on, and we can create more content like that to drive more traffic to the website from search results. And then the last thing here is there's a free SEO audit on toprankedadvisor.com. They are an SEO firm that serves the financial services industry specifically. If you go to their homepage, you can enter in your URL and your email address, and it will spit out a full PDF report that gives you a bunch of recommendations that you can implement yourself, or you can share with a professional you're going to be working with so they know what needs to be done. It kind of breaks down the different categories on, where you're doing well, what you need to work on, gives you some recommendations. So that is really useful. You can do that at the beginning, go take care of some of those things. And then once you make a bunch of updates, give them some time to set in. Sometimes it takes a few weeks for Google to recrawl or re-index your site, and then go back and do another audit and see if any of your scores have improved and some of those recommendations have gone away. And another fun little tip is you can also do this on competitors' websites. Go get an SEO audit on your competitors, see where they're doing better than you and what keywords they're showing up for that you would like to be outranking them for, and then try and beat them at their own game. So with that, I have this last slide here that kind of recaps everything. I'm not going to run through it, but just there for posterity's sake. And I know that this is a lot, but again, this is all a constant build. Google's constantly, implementing Google algorithm updates. So you want to stay on top of those, see, this year they're going to be focusing more on page content. This year, they're going to be focusing more on page load time. So I should reduce my image file sizes. So it's, an inexact science. It's a constantly moving target, and it's a constant build as well. So whatever seems most attainable to you, start working on that, and then just try and knock out things little by little, month after month. But with that, we probably have a few other questions.
I've got one for you, Jonny. On the free resource on the page before, if you wanted to know how a competitor was doing, could you enter in is that what you were saying? You could enter in the URL for
so to get the audit, you just have to enter in a URL and then an email address. And so you would just put in your competitor's URL and your email address, so you get the report emailed to you, and then you can take a look and see where they're doing better than you, and like I said, try and beat them at their own game.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? I know there have been a couple of comments that showed up in the chat. Any questions that Jonny can answer for you? Well, Jonny, you have shared a ton of great information. And to your point on the halo effect, kind of the most effective way to build that credibility and that visibility. I do want to put in a shameless plug for Jonny's team. They are our public relations team, and they do amazing work. And so there are many things that Jonny's team does, but PR work is one of the ones that is of note, and we find it to be super valuable when it comes to the halo effect.
Yeah, it definitely is. Thank you. And I think that, good video content is also really important for, building that halo. People need to see you online, see what you're like as a person and as an advisor. And that also is going to make you more personable. It's going to make people feel more comfortable with you. It's going to, kind of give people a sense of trust with you before they even meet you. So I think that, having a strong video presence and putting yourself out there in that form is also really important for building that halo effect, positioning yourself as a thought leader within your community or industry, and building out that trust and credibility.
Before we go, we want to invite everyone on this call to our next AVA, which is coming up next month. We do this once a month, and it is called Retirement Done Right, featuring Lynn Wright, who is on her runway into retirement. If you are planning your own exit from your financial advisory practice, there are many things that you can learn from Lynn and some of her colleagues, things that they think they probably did wrong when it came to planning their communication strategy for how they were communicating the exit plan to their clients. And she wants to make sure you get it right. So we asked her to share all of her insight on what she learned. That is coming up next month. You will get an invite in your inbox. You'll probably see it on LinkedIn as well. So please join us next month for the AVA.
And as always, we always try to find a fun quote to end the AVA. And this one I thought was interesting from John Hall, who is the chief strategist at Relevance. Am I all of a sudden from Boston? Marketers often mistakenly create content to draw organic traffic without keeping keyword research in mind. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you, Jonny. Great seeing your faces. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.
All right. Thank you.